If you're looking to make that end of season climb at a low elo, then this video is for you, as we'll be breaking down 3 champions for every single role that hold the greatest carry power for the lower ranks. And do you remember when knowing how to set up a freeze in low elo made you special? These days you're considered a troll if you don't know what a freeze is. Problem is, challengers are so out of touch with the fact that everyone in low elo has improved, so if you ask for help, you just keep getting the same outdated advice. Or even worse, they give you tips that only work in high elo, like how you should sync up your wave crashes with your teammates in multiple lanes to set up invades or objective priority. The theoretically correct play is usually not what actually works in your own elo. Oftentimes it's something that may seem out of the ordinary, like split pushing as an ADC that will give you way more agency. We teach you the correct way to play League like everyone else does, but also the adaptations that actually work in your elo, so you'll always have multiple great ideas for what to do to win games. We're constantly producing and updating our strategies with players getting better, so SkillCapped is by far the best platform for learning League of Legends. We're so confident that if you don't climb 5 divisions while actively using SkillCapped, you can claim a full refund. Our service has zero risk with the potential to save you tons of time in your climb, so make sure to give us a try. So we're going to start the video off by covering our 3 top lane selections for low elo, and first up is going to be Heimerdinger. There are so many different factors that make Heimer a phenomenal low elo top laner. First is that he's a ranged top laner with shoving power, so his ability to stomp on melee champs is incredible. There's also very little skill required to play Heimer at a level to where you're impactful, as placing down turrets and perma-shoving enemies under tower is absolutely brainless. With most ranged champs, if you're shoving the enemy under tower, you'll end up leaving yourself quite vulnerable to ganks. However, Heimer is an outlier here, as his 1v2 potential is godlike. If you have 3 turrets down and the enemy jungler ganks, you can at the very least trade 1 for 1. However, if you are level 6 and have your R available, winning the 1v2 is a legit possibility. This is what makes Heimer so great for low elo, because he relies very little on his team to succeed. Something you really want to focus on in the mid to late game with Heimer is taking Baron when the enemy team is not paying attention. If the entire enemy team is on the map bot lane and Baron is up, you can take Baron with Heimer as long as you have one other teammate there to help tank for you. Duoing up with a jungler can make this even more ridiculous, because you can just start Baron as soon as it spawns, and in the lower ranks, players just won't be expecting it. Another top lane champ who's super strong for low elo due to his self-sufficiency is Yorick. Yorick is one of those top lane champs who wants to live in the side lane because his tower taking power is insane. You just constantly pressure the side lane with Yorick, which works amazing for low elo because the enemy team just won't know how to react. The rule of thumb when you're in the mid game is always to try and split push on the side of the map furthest from the next objective. So if Dragon is coming up in 1 minute, going top lane is great, but if Baron is spawning in 1 minute, then splitting bot is more ideal. Reason for this is because while you're splitting on the opposite side of the map to where the next objective is spawning, if the enemy team sends a few members to try and stop your split push, it then gives your team the advantage to take that objective. To really excel with Yorick, you do need a bit of patience when splitting though. You don't just want to aimlessly shove out waves and perma-split without paying attention to the map. Before pushing up past the halfway mark of the map, have a look to see where your team and the enemy team is. If your entire team is in base, then just chill out a sec and wait for them to get on the map. The worst thing that you can do as a split pusher is die without your team being in position to capitalize on the enemy team collapsing on you. Since split pushing is such an intricate topic, we can't go into heavy detail about it in this video, but since it's so important for your success on Yorick, check out our split pushing course on our website that can really help you out. And for our third top lane pick to help you climb out of low elo the fastest, we've got Dr. Mundo. Mundo is the perfect top lane champ for the lower ranks because he builds super tanky but still deals a load of damage. This gives you more margin for error and the ability to be extremely impactful without much skill required. Auto attacks alone deal a ton of damage with Mundo because of the fact he gains bonus AD based on his max health. You just mow through everyone, don't die, and can duel better than most fighter champs while building full tank. Since you take Ghost with teleport for your summoner spells on Mundo, you have the ability to either split or teamfight really well too. Splitting with Mundo when you have a couple of items is actually really devastating, as you can absolutely obliterate towers due to the Demolish rune. Demolish is going to deal damage equal to 35% of your max health, so the rune just works so well with Mundo. If there's one jungler that you need to be spamming to climb out of low elo right now, it's Warwick. Warwick has always been a really strong low elo jungler, but in his current state, he's just extremely OP. Warwick has some of the most ridiculous skirmish power for any jungler due to all of the survival mechanics in his kit. You've got the damage reduction from E along with the healing from Q, R, and passive, which provides Warwick with a very deadly extended fight. Warwick is one of the most opportunistic junglers in the game as well due to how his W works. Warwick W gives him bonus movement speed towards targets that are low on health, which allows for you to pick up kills that no other jungler in the game would be able to get. The best part about Warwick though is that even though he's pretty easy to pick up, there are a lot of more nuanced things to learn about the champ, which means you can find great success right away, but that success can balloon even more as you put in the time to learn it. A jungler who excels way more in the lower ranks than in high elo and who you should consider picking up is Briar. Briar is kind of similar to Warwick in the sense that her extended skirmish is really good. good. In the lower ranks, playing these junglers who can thrive in more chaotic extended fights can bode really well for you. Not only does Briar have a great skirmish, but her catch power from R really pushes her over the top. Being able to join fights from across the map is so nice for low elo, where your teammates will be looking to fight all the time. Other than Briar's R, she doesn't really have a mechanically difficult ability in her kit, which makes her quite easy to pick up. It's very similar to Warwick, where you can find good success with Briar right away, but really diving into her kit and learning your limits can make the champ super broken. To climb out of low elo from the jungle, picking a jungler who provides you with a less varied approach to each game can help you a ton, and Nocturne is one of those picks. Nocturne is a phenomenal low elo jungler because you have a very clear win condition to play towards. Hitting level 6 as quick as possible should be your main focus on Nocturne because the champ is so much more powerful when he has R available. Full clearing is going to be the way to go for almost every game, which helps to keep things very consistent. After all, consistency is the key to escaping the lower ranks, and with this game plan on Nocturne, you are pretty much guaranteed to make an impact in every single game. You always want to make sure that your first R with Nocturne is going to be impactful, and a good way to maximize its impact is by paying attention to which lane provides you with the best follow-up. If you have a bot lane that has a ton of CC, but your top laner is playing something like Teemo, who has no hard CC at all, prioritizing your R for bot lane is going to be the higher percent play most of the time. Now, of course, every game is different, and League is a game of split-second decision-making, so if you notice that the enemy top is super low on health, even if your top laner doesn't provide any strong gank assist, you can still use R on that lane if you know you'll be able to score the kill on your own. More commonly played up in the top lane, but an even better mid lane champ for low elo is Garen. Our challenger mid laner Shori is a big advocate of the Garen mid pick and has a new commentary for the champ on our website. What makes Garen mid so good for low elo is that number 1, he's very simple to play, and number 2, he plays extremely well into many of the most played mid lane champs. Garen smashes common matchups like Yasuo, Yone, Sylas, Katarina, and Zed, and we see those champs played even more in the lower ranks than in high elo. It's just impossible for you to lose a trade as Garen with all your abilities up against those picks. You have the damage reduction from W and the bonus movement speed from taking phase rush and runes, so you go in, take a short trade that involves using Q and spinning with E, and then you back out with the movement speed from phase rush before the enemy can fight back. As long as you're trading around your W cooldown, the damage reduction it provides means that the enemy cannot fight back. As the game progresses and you get your items with Garen, you'll eventually just start one-shotting squishy champs with a full rotation of spells, and this is when he becomes super obnoxious. A mid lane champ that is great for the lower ranks because of how impactful you can be in every single game is Malzahar. A lot of melee mids like Katarina, Zed, and Akali are way more feast or famine because if they fall behind early, it's extremely difficult to make an impact due to damage being the only thing that they can provide. With Malz, the early game outcome does not matter nearly as much because of how much power he gains from hitting levels and item spike. Level 6 is the first big spike with Malz because he gets his R, and it's the tool in his kit that allows him to be extremely impactful without needing to be fed at all. Enemy Yasuo could be dominating you in lane, have solo killed you multiple times, but you can completely nullify any advantage he has gotten by just pressing R on him in a team fight and allow your team to follow up and pick up his shutdown. Now, a little strategy that you'll want to implement on Malz that not a lot of low elo players take advantage of is starting the game with a mana crystal and refillable potion. Reaching your lost chapter buy as quick as possible is really key to unlocking the shoving power of Malz, and by going for mana crystal start instead of Doran's ring, you accelerate into that lost chapter buy much quicker. A mid lane champ who's almost always going to work better for the lower ranks due to how his kit functions is Veigar. Veigar, being a stacking champion, is much better suited for low elo where games last longer on average. The longer games go, the more AP that you're able to stack up with Veigar's Q, and the greater your one-shot power becomes. Since you want to be stacking up AP by last hitting minions with Q, the early laning power and ability for Veigar to score solo kills is almost non-existent. This can be more of a detriment in the higher ranks where acquiring early lane priority is more valuable, but in low elo, just focusing on your farm and hitting at least 80 CS by 10 minutes on Veigar will set you up to be consistently impactful on the champ in every game. Veigar is a really deadly champ in the mid game if you can control vision around objectives and cut off choke points with his E. Arriving to objectives early and catching enemies in your cage as they try to walk into chokes is how you'll find the most success with Veigar as the game goes on. As long as you're farming well and have a bunch of AP stacked up, catching an enemy squishy in your cage should lead to a one-shot kill every single time. There's really just one ADC that you need to be playing to escape low elo from the role, and that champ is Miss Fortune. There's way less skill required to play MF at a level to where you can be impactful compared to the majority of other ADCs. Miss Fortune is one of the few ADCs in the game right now who builds lethality, which means she's not as reliant on constantly weaving auto attacks to be effective. MF's R is going to hit really hard with these heavy AD builds, and simply lining up a good R in a team fight with Miss Fortune is all you have to do to out-impact the enemy ADC. Just making sure you play behind your front line and being ready to follow up when they go in is all you got to worry about when team fighting with the champ. With less to think about mechanically when playing Miss Fortune, you're able to focus more of your energy towards the the macro aspects of the game that actually make you a better player. Our next selection for the bot lane carry role is going to be a more unconventional pick that works extremely well, being Lux. There's really no reason to play Lux in the support role right now when she's astronomically better played as a bot lane carry. Lux is such a great champ to play for low elo in the bot lane because her kill threat at level 6 is so broken. If you're playing with a support who has some sort of CC lockdown and they're able to land that spell, it's a guaranteed kill every single time with Lux since she's able to follow with her full burst combo. Of course, just landing Lux Q on its own can lead to kills as well, but it's much easier if your support can CC the enemy first so that there's no chance you'll miss. This is a big reason to why Lux sees so much more success as a carry instead of a support, because as a support, she needs to land her Q first in order to start a fight, but when playing in the carry role, oftentimes you'll have a support who can land their CC first so that her combo is foolproof. Whenever you have R available with Lux, you should be proactive in lane. Oftentimes, you can even just use your R for poke if the enemy ADC is last hitting under tower to provide yourself with perma priority. When you're playing Lux as the bot lane carry, it's important to take Teleport as your secondary summoner spell. With Teleport, it amplifies the laning strength of Lux and allows her to poke a lot more freely because if she runs out of mana, then it's just a quick reset and right back to pressuring. Back to a traditional ADC for our third low elo selection, and we've got Sivir. What sets Sivir apart from most other ADCs is her ability to relentlessly stall out games and provide her team with impactful tools that are not tied to dealing damage. Much of the worth of many ADCs solely lies in their ability to dish out damage, but with Sivir, you have the perma wave clear from Q and W along with the movement speed from her R, so you have ways to contribute regardless of how fed or weak you may be. The perma wave clear factor is especially strong for low elo where players tend to overforce when they become impatient. If you're just clearing out every single wave that the enemy shoves into you and they can't actually take a tower, oftentimes they'll try to dive you, and that can lead to throwing the game in your favor. With how strong Sivir's wave clear is, it makes farming with her super easy once you get to Essence Reaver and have a bit of damage. Keeping your CS score above 7 CS per minute should be your goal when playing Sivir, and if you can do this consistently, climbing out of low elo should be no issue at all. Climbing from support in the lower ranks can be more frustrating when you have to rely on your ADC, but they just don't follow up on your plays. Well, you can eliminate this by choosing a more solo carry oriented support who doesn't need their ADC to be as competent, and one of those champs is Vel'Koz. Ever since Vel'Koz was buffed a few patches back, he's been a top tier support for solo queue and feels great to play with his lower cooldown R. Level 6 with Vel'Koz is where you can really take over because his Q into R combo is pretty easy to use but deals a load of damage. You just constantly fish for Qs with Vel in lane, and then once the enemy is a little below half health, that next Q that hits can be followed up with your R to pick up the kill. As the game goes on and you start playing around objectives in the mid game, it's really key to try to play from the fog of war with vision control as Vel'Koz. The long range from Q allows for Vel to poke really well, but you aren't able to do this unless you have vision down around that objective due to the champ being vulnerable to engage. Constant Q poke can set your team up really well to win the objective fight if you can chunk the enemy squishies out before a fight even starts, so being on the map and controlling that objective before it spawns is vital with Vel. If you don't want to play a ranged mage support and would rather a melee champ, then there's nobody better for low elo than Tahm Kench. Tahm is super strong right now for every single elo bracket, but is winning even more in low elo. What makes Tahm Kench even better for the lower ranks is the fact that he builds Heartsteel, and since games in low elo last longer, you get more value out of the stacking aspect of the item. By rushing Heartsteel on Tahm, your skirmish power for a support is absolutely incredible. There is no other melee support in the game who can go toe-to-toe with you in the 1v1 when you have Heartsteel, which just makes the 2v2 skirmish of Tahm insanely powerful. The champ isn't even that difficult to play either. You do have the skill shots with Q and W, however, just slapping the enemy with auto attacks is where the brunt of Tahm's damage comes from due to his passive. Often, you don't even need to hit the enemy with your W, it's more so used as a gap closer to get up on top of them and in close range so that your Q is more guaranteed to hit. You want to approach Tahm Q similar to how you would Blitzcrank, as getting right up close to the enemy and then using Q is going to greatly improve your odds of landing the spell. Of course, during the laning phase, you can fish for Q poke from afar, and then if one of those Qs does land, going in with W is almost guaranteed since when the enemy is slowed, landing W is so much easier. If Vel'Koz is not your cup of tea, an alternative mage support who thrives in the lower ranks is Zyra. One thing Zyra has over Vel'Koz is the ability to hard CC an enemy and lock them down. Where Vel beats Zyra is in his ability to poke from afar and single out one target with his full burst combo. Zyra, on the other hand, has more AoE potential and can lock down multiple members of the enemy team in a fight. When it comes down to pure teamfight impact in a straight up 5v5, Zyra is going to be more impactful, but if it drags out and are more slow, the long range poke from Vel can take over. So it really depends on what kind of playstyle you prefer as to whether you choose Vel'Koz or Zyra. Both champs are really great for low elo though because they have the ability to top the damage charts and don't rely on their ADC to be the main source of damage. Your ADC could be non-existent, but as long as you're dishing out the damage yourself, you can win games where you deal 3 times the amount of damage your ADC does. Alright guys, one last thing, our rank up guarantee is insane. It's like signing up for the gym and getting a refund if you don't get ripped. That's how confident we are in SkillCapped. We obsess over making the best guides with top players, rigorous testing, and top-tier video editing to make your climb easy. If you're ready to level up, visit SkillCapped.com and see the difference. So there you have it, everyone, a complete look at the top 3 champions for low elo in every single role. Good luck with your end of season climbs, and we'll see you back soon.